have a lot of, let's just say, feminine male fans. They want to be Barbies too, and it's only right that I give them a name. Harajuku Ken Barbies.
Be boys.
Amen.
Be boys. It's okay. Be boys. It's nothing wrong with being a boy.
It wasn't that I wasn't cool, it was that the kids that were cool, I wasn't on their wavelength, which made me sort of uncool, I guess.
You know what I did, man? Oh, y'all, man, for real, man. I see y'all boys outside when I see y'all, man, for real, man.
Lobbies and Gentlegrams, kind of an interesting detour on this video, alright? So initially it started off as just a Nicki Minaj versus Jay-Z video. Then it spiraled into a Nicki Minaj and Lil Wayne versus the industry video because Lil Wayne was kind of dissing the Grammys and boycotting both the Super Bowl and the Grammys to instead perform in the Clash Royale video game. And then all this weird stuff started happening with fake streams, botted streams with 21 Savage and Drake. And while Drake hadn't actually, said or done anything, he didn't have any outbursts like Lil Wayne or Nicki did. I was like, somehow Drake still gets roped into this really sad grand spiral of Young Money that's been continual for the last year and a half.
Yo, shout out to all the 12-year-olds in the building. What's up?
But I was proud of Drake that he wasn't the one, doing something stupid or saying something stupid this time around. This time around, it was actually Wayne and Nicki who were the main focal points. But sure enough, La Brianna comes back around to make a mess again, keep things messy. And this is why I'm kind of adding this little spark note in the video, because I recorded this whole freaking video, but then a bunch of Drake songs leak right as Bad Bunny's about to step on the Super Bowl stage and J. Cole releases his Fall Off album that's 10 years in the making. And I'm like, of course Drake has to do something stupid to try to step on these rollouts, right?
I study
something stupid
for a living.
So first of all, I might have a whole video coming out within the next week about how I believe Drake is paying an army, a militia of different streamers and media figures to create these smear campaigns and just run these weird narratives on Twitter for him over the last year. Now, I touch on it a bit in this video because he's literally being sued for allegedly using Stake to fund social media bots. But I think the rabbit hole gets deeper. Charlemagne was referencing how Drake and Stake have been paying the media to try and push certain narratives. Back when he was pushing Nokia as a single, I believe there was some sort of program where you could get paid to react to it or make videos about the song.
I study
social media bots
for a living.
And this is not even, paying attention to the fact that all of these different streamers like XQC, Los Pollos, Adin Ross, Akademiks, they've been regurgitating the same talking points about, Kendrick and Doechii being industry plants or botting, or how Kendrick Lamar was puppeted by UMG to call Drake a PDF to try and kick him out of the industry, right? You hear all these people saying the exact same thing. It's almost like it's been coordinated or rehearsed by a PR team to try and clear up Drake's reputation by having all of these little media figures infiltrate social media with the same exact narratives. Each one is the same one as each other. It's very weird.
You gotta realize what it says. The subscription for the bots finna end. You gotta re-up. I study charts for a living.
We'll probably be diving into that deeper in a different video, but the one thing that kind of lit the light bulbs off in my head to make me think about this is the fact that randomly on the night that J. Cole was about to drop the Fall Off, Akademiks says he somehow got his hands on a leaked Drake song and decides to play it literally 10 minutes before the Fall Off comes out. Now, if you guys haven't been keeping up, J. Cole was pretty clearly dissing Drake on his Birthday Blizzard mixtape, which dropped last week. We know that they probably haven't been on, great terms, I guess, but it seemed like Drake liked the post when J. Cole posted his song Port Antonio, where he was kind of apologizing to Drake.
Spicy.
So I don't know what exactly happened between these two, but this was an obvious attack, right? Akademiks could tell you whatever the hell he wants. Oh, Drake was mad at me that I leaked this song. This was not from Drake. I just leaked this on my own. Let me ask you something. When do you know DJ Akademiks to sabotage anything for Drake? If this was really a song that Drake was keeping in the tuck that he didn't want anyone to hear, that he didn't want Akademiks to leak, you think Akademiks would have leaked it on his own? It's also not just any song. On that song, he's specifically referencing the beef, his lawsuit with the label, all the drama that we've been waiting a year and a half for Drake to finally actually address with the world, right? So to put this out on the night that J. Cole is dropping the Fall Off, it's beyond intentional. It's letting the world know, hey, I can't let this guy breathe and have his own moment for a minute. I got to jump in and try and sabotage that. We know he's been doing this all throughout last year, right? I've gone through this with you guys on multiple videos, but if you paid attention, every single time Kendrick made a big move, Drake came in immediately after to try and stomp on it. I mean, the night that Kendrick was performing in Toronto in a stadium back-to-back nights, Drake had a live stream organized with Kai Cenat where he was supposed to appear with Kai Cenat on live, and for some reason it mysteriously got canceled. Kendrick does the Super Bowl a week after Drake drops his album with PARTYNEXTDOOR. Kendrick dropped GNX. The same week Kendrick dropped GNX, Drake drops his lawsuit against UMG. At that time, it was just the petition. But I say all that to say he's been trying to stomp on Kendrick's moments all year. And now he's doing the same thing with Cole, right? And he's using Big Mac and Akademiks as the mouthpiece.
Those 3 Big Macs are for me.
The lyrics of this song that Akademiks leaked go, you know what? Don't call me the greatest. Them guys you saying are the greatest makes that an understatement. F them haters, double agents, even my label. Gave them 15 years of my soul. And then the snippet cuts off. This is obviously in reference to the fact that everyone's been saying Kendrick took the crown from Drake, right? And what a crybaby way of kind of approaching it. Like, yeah, I lost the battle. I lost the culture. But you know what? I wouldn't even want to be the greatest because the guys who you're saying are the greatest now, they can't even compare to me. So if that's the greatest, then I don't want to be the greatest because that means the greatest isn't that great.
Cap.
Now, Akademiks played a second snippet where Drake is doing his best Playboi Carti impression. On the first snippet, I mean, he's rapping again in that monotone flow that he's used for 8 million songs in the past. Now, for real, guys, I'm going to go into Iceman with a blank slate. Like, I'm really going to try and judge it from the most non-biased perspective possible because I used to like a lot of Drake music from like 2009 to 2016. After that, it all kind of started going downhill. And then, I mean, of course, he jumps into this battle, loses miserably, then sues the label, then proceeds to drop like just the most atrocious, worst music of his career by far with the 50 plus songs that he's dropped since the beef, and only references this beef in the most crybaby way possible, like not directly aiming the target at the one person who deserves the smoke, Kendrick Lamar, for whooping, Drake's behind, but instead redirecting it at the label or at LeBron James or at Joe Budden or at whoever, because he knows what would happen if he aimed at Kendrick next.
I study
Crybaby way
for a living.
So it's really hard to kind of go into this on a clean slate, just like being excited for a Drake album like I was maybe in 2011 or whatever the case is. But I'm going to try. But man, he's not making it easy when the sound of this snippet, like I don't mean to sound unbiased, but this is just facts, guys, all right? If you've been paying attention to Drake's music, you know that this snippet sounds like everything he's released for the last 10 years damn near. It's creatively bankrupt. It's the same exact flows, the same cadence, the same tone of voice, the same type of production. And I mean, in terms of the subject matter, the only thing that's unique here is the fact that he's now dissing the label when he used to be the little industry puppet. But he's still whining and crying. It's all the same garbage, man. This is not what we need for Iceman, all right? This is really, really just uninspired and bland and bad, all right? And then Akademiks premiered a second snippet, which I believe I just mentioned in the video. He does his best Playboi Carti impression. And conveniently, the full song leaks on the night of the Super Bowl. Now, obviously, Drake and Jay-Z are somewhat at odds, it would seem like, right? I mean, Nicki Minaj has, called out Jay-Z on Twitter multiple times saying that Jay-Z's hatred towards Drake is what made Jay-Z pick Kendrick Lamar for the Super Bowl halftime show. So it makes sense that Drake is trying to stomp on, the Super Bowl moment by leaking more of his own music. I can't say that for sure. This is just what it seems like. All these dates are always just too convenient.
Spicy.
First, it's J. Cole, right? The night of J. Cole's release, we get leaked Drake music, and now the night of the Super Bowl, we get more leaked Drake music. And on this song, it's, allegedly titled Spicy Hot. On the song, Drake appears to be dissing not Kendrick Lamar. He is dissing Kendrick Lamar, but not just Kendrick Lamar, but also Young Thug. Because if you guys don't remember, there were leaked Young Thug jail phone calls from like 2022 when he was incarcerated, where he was talking to, I believe, his manager about Drake trying to get Young Thug to help him get a beat from Metro Boomin. And at the time, Metro had just lost his mother. This is really the origins of where Metro Boomin and Drake had their issues from.
And Drake's so stupid, he probably just sent the stupidest condolences like, yeah, bro, sorry for moms, and I'm here for you, bro, whatever you need. Just like something stupid. Instead of giving a nigga some wisdom or something real, you probably just said some crazy stuff on the phone, which is, you still genuine, you know what I'm saying? But you probably said something like that, and then you come right back 2-3 weeks later like, yo, let me get this song.
I'll maybe put a link in the description. I did a whole breakdown of Metro and Drake's beef. But Young Thug at the time was kind of talking crap about Drake because he's like, Drake is such a like insensitive dude. He's not even thinking about the fact that Metro just lost his mother. He's just thinking about a freaking beat. Like, Drake is ridiculous. It's disgusting what he's doing, essentially. And then Young Thug went on to apologize to Drake in a song, and now you have Drake responding in this song where he raps, "When I say free slime, I ain't talking that talk, man. I really put bread on the case. I'm tired of talking from distance, my guy. I'm dying to get back in your face." Now, what he's saying here is like when he says free slime, like free Young Thug who goes by Slime, he's not just, saying that just to say that. He actually really spent money for Young Thug's lawyers. Now, we know that Young Thug allegedly got $1 million from Drake when he came home. And, he's tired of talking from a distance. He's tired of talking with Young Thug being in jail. He wants to actually see him face to face. Then Drake says, you talk about Drake, you get a whole lot. You talk about Drake, you get you some streams. You talk about Drake, you get you some guap. But here's where I interpret this as a Young Thug diss. He says, man, how the F is your day one gonna testify so you can sit in a box? Either you never did stuff for your brothers or them guys must have forgot. Now, it's possible he's dissing Gunna here, but it kind of sounds like a Young Thug diss, right? Because he's saying, like, how is your day one gonna testify and while you're there sitting trial, sitting in a box, sitting in jail, right? And we know a lot of people on the YSL trial had ended up testifying, the biggest one being Gunna, right? And here Drake says, either you never did stuff for your brothers or they must have forgot, implying that maybe Young Thug wasn't as supportive to these guys, as he could have been to make them not testify against him when push came to shove, right? I don't know. But how I was complaining on the last song, how he's using the same monotone cadence and flow and voice that he's used for the last 10 years? Well, in the last 3 years, Drake has tried to use this kind of like Young Thug impersonation type of voice where he's like, and that's even more insufferable than the typical Drake monotonous voice. So it's like, that's what you get on this song. And I don't know, man. You guys tell me if you enjoy this, all right? You can look up Spicy Hot on your own, Google it, and go listen to it and let me know. And then there's a beat switch. This is where the Playboi Carti impersonation comes in, and this is where the Kendrick disses come in as well. Because he says, I don't look nothing like y'all. You're right about that. It's just like you said. That stuff's a compliment, boy. You're acting like we want to be you instead. That's when I'd rather be dead. Of course, Kendrick, had the whole movement of They Not Like Us, right? That was the biggest diss track of the beef. He was essentially stating that Drake, from a cultural perspective, from a heritage perspective, from an upbringing, from a morals perspective, in every sense of the term, Drake is quote unquote not like us, not like Kendrick and the way he was brought up and the way his people are and what they stand for and believe in, right? Drake here is saying, that's a compliment to me. I don't want to be nothing like you. If I was like you, I'd rather be dead. The same way he said on the previous record, like, those guys are the greatest. Don't ever call me the greatest again, because if those guys can somehow be the greatest, then that's not a title that I would ever want. I would never want to be something like them. Just a complete sore loser mentality, guys.
I study
Sore loser mentality
for a living.
It's like losing a game and then being like, well, I didn't want to play anyways, right? So, you know what? I lost the game. Why don't I sue over the game? Because I didn't even want to. It's not even like I wanted to play, And, he won the game. Well, if he's a winner, then I would never even want to be called a winner, because that's what a winner looks like. All of it despicable, and more despicable that it had to get leaked on the night of J. Cole's album release. And this is the thing, right? Like, Akademiks had been teasing for days that he had leaked Drake music. So if Drake really wanted to stop it and be like, hey, don't put this out on the night of J. Cole's album release, and it wasn't intentional, like, I truly believe that Drake had Akademiks purposely leak this song. But if you want to tell me that Akademiks just did it on his own, Drake had days in advance to stop Akademiks from doing it, because Akademiks had announced days in advance that he had the songs before he actually leaked them. So whole thing is kind of disgusting. Another gross example of Drake seeking attention, but we have a lot more to unpack in this video, all right? Because the Young Money downfall keeps getting worse and worse. It's not just Drake, it stretches on to Nicki and Wayne. And like I mentioned before, I had recorded this whole video breaking down a lot of things related to Drake, Nicki, and Wayne, but then you got this whole debacle with the leaked songs from Drake. So now at this point in the video, it'll seem like, these leaked songs never even existed, the way I'm kind of talking about how, Drake didn't do anything this time around. It was just Wayne and Nicki, but that's because I recorded this before these leaked songs came out. So just take that with a grain of salt, and let's get into some absolute craziness here, guys, all right? Lobbies and Gentlegrams, the GOAT of '08 is no great Grammy gainer in '26. He missed a nomination but didn't miss the occasion to fan his frustration aimed at Kendrick in the Grammys. Meanwhile, his Young Money main member Nicki Minaj got a shout out at the awards, but not for anything favorable, of course. The crowd clapped at her lack of remorse for the political hardships in America today and the fact she stayed away from the Grammys. Of course, this award show sent both of them in a spiral that stretched miles long, so let's wrap up this song and see what went wrong, but first, hit the like and subscribe buttons like a bong.
I study
Rapaholics
for a living.
Alright, Lobbies and Gentlegrams, now, as we kick this video off, we will have to talk about Young Money as a whole. And when I say Young Money as a whole, I'm not talking about, Gutta Gutta with his grocery bags or Mac Main with his, in about 3 years, Holla at Me, Miley Cyrus. I'm just talking about, the big three of Young Money. Lil Wayne, Nicki, and Drake. Now, Drake didn't do anything in particular, unlike Wayne and Nicki, who have made some bold statements, which we're gonna break down. But Drake, through his actions over the last year and what recently went down with his good collaborator 21 Savage, Drake is tied into another instance of potentially trying to cheat and scam the system. Now, I said this right when the album came out, alright? Streaming activity on week 1 alone was very suspicious, and I just find it ironic because the whole premise of Drake's lawsuit against UMG was that they helped Kendrick Lamar cheat the system by botting Not Like Us, and that it wasn't an organic hit without the fake streams that UMG or that Kendrick's team had put on the song, and ever since then, you see everyone in TDE's camp is accused of being an industry plant. Kendrick Lamar is known as the K-bot, when in reality, it's not Kendrick Lamar that's roped into lawsuits about using bots out in Turkey for their Spotify streams.
I study
using bots out in Turkey
for a living.
It's not Kendrick Lamar roped into lawsuits about using Stake, the gambling company, to allegedly funnel crypto through the platform to fund botting activity on social media and on streaming platforms.
I study
using Stake to funnel crypto to fund botting activity
for a living.
It's Drake who's accused of this stuff. And these accusations started rolling in only after he accused Kendrick and UMG of using bots themselves. Now, this time we got some real botting news. Not fake, not allegations, not a lawsuit, just straight facts from Spotify, alright? Because 21 Savage's new album, What Happened to the Streets, with the biggest song on that project being Mr. Recoup featuring Drake, it lost 25 million fake streams on the Spotify platform. Now, what does this mean? This means that Spotify, since last February, has been doing manual checks where they go through all the songs on their platform, and any track that has streams that came from bots, Spotify removes them. So that's what just happened to Mr. 21 Savage. Now, why this is hilarious is, again, the biggest song on that project is one featuring Drake, and it had around 2.2 million streams removed from it, which means that Drake and 21 were using bots.
Spicy.
Again, you could go back to my videos like a month ago or my tweets from a month ago. I was reporting on how the streaming activity on the first week of that album's release started to look suspicious, so it really didn't surprise me that this project had a ton of bots on it. Not even Drake could save the album. People were not really showing that much interest in new 21 Savage music, and the numbers sadly reflected it, so they needed to allegedly prop it up with some fake streams. Now, why this is hilarious and just kind of points to the overall bigger crumbling picture that is going on, the side of Drake and Akademiks and Adin Ross and whatever.
Those 3 Big Macs are for me.
Is that, they're so quick to push propaganda, spread nasty narratives, fake narratives at that. But when it comes to, them getting caught red-handed, they have nothing to say. So when this botting news came out, Akademiks was on live stream and his audience was begging him to cover it, right? Because 21 Savage is his friend, Drake is his friend, but he's the numbers guy, Akademiks, right? He says he studies charts for a living. So it's only right that he has to comment on this. And he made sure to only comment on it at the end of the night at like 4 a.m. when everyone was already hopping off of his live stream. He touched on it for a moment, but it's what he said that was absolutely insane.
I study charts for a living. Chat, I study charts for a living.
I study rap battles for a living.
I mean, aside from all the flip-flopping, now that it's his mans that's, getting caught red-handed for botting, it's like, He's asking, was it really botting, or were you guys just cheating, or was this the label, or who was this? He's just kind of talking in circles here to confuse the audience, right? It's a whole lot of coping to just circle around the fact that 21 Savage was factually just caught using fake streams on his music that featured Drake, right? And of course, Akademiks has to bring it back to Kendrick Lamar, right? He made up on his own Twitter account, the Akademiks TV, the fake narrative that Kendrick Lamar's song Luther had 250 million fake streams removed from it on Spotify, which never happened. That's not true. We'll touch on that shortly. But he's trying to use that fake narrative that his own team created as an example of other artists in the game actually using bots when 21 Savage is factually confronted with using bots. That's why this is so freaking ridiculous. Take a look, guys. You guys will puke.
I think even some of y'all were trolling me to speak about this because y'all want to politicize this entire thing to be like, oh no, Savage is doing something. Here's my thing. I'm down to call a spade as long as we're calling the spade. So if the gotcha moment is y'all want me to say, oh, Savage is botting, if y'all are saying and acknowledging that Kendrick is botting, and the proof that we have for that is that billions of his streams were deleted or removed, and now we see something removed from Savage, okay, that's cool. Let's go along with all of them botting. I don't care.
Cap.
I'm not that, there's Kendrick fans that try to argue against the notion that Kendrick bots, but they try to blame botting on everybody else. And if anybody in this industry seemingly has the most evidence for fraudulence or botting, it would be Kendrick Lamar.
Cap.
So this 25 million streams that have been deleted, I would like to know more information. I wish Spotify would release some information about why they deleted whatever. And is it a sanction? And I wish if artists were botting, we got to treat it like the steroid era. Artists should receive sanctions, but they should receive it publicly. Now, granted, they won't do it publicly because the record labels of these artists, like, for example, Universal on behalf of Kendrick is going to say no. Well, if you announce that Kendrick bots, his fans might stream less. It's going to hurt the business. So don't announce it.
Cap.
At some point, you have to announce it. You have to announce it to let it be known that there's a shame factor and a punitive aspect of this. That you're not going to just bot, and if you get away with it, it's good. But if you don't get away with it, we just sweep it under the rug. So again, I'm saying I'm not too sure what this means. Okay? Now, granted, I'm also not stupid. If this is like, has this been something that has happened historically often for Savage? Has it only happened for this one particular album? Has it only happened one time ever for him? Is it something that normally happens? On an average of like 15 random artists, but viable artists, do they ever have negative streams? Again, not necessarily protecting, but I think the conversation that needs to be had is the overall conversation, right? Yes, we've seen Kendrick with deleted streams. Now we've seen Savage with deleted streams. I wish Spotify could address it. What does that mean? Does it mean that you guys counted incorrectly? Or these guys are cheating?
So it's just heinous work, right? Heinous journalistic work, heinous bias. And it's like, can we expect anything more from Akademiks? No, but like, it's just sad, guys, right? Like, this is now one of the biggest voices in hip-hop media. I won't say he didn't work his way here, right? Like, definitely you can't take away anything from the man's work ethic. He's on stream every night. He's been doing that for 15, 12 years, whatever the case is. He's also got a big team. He's everywhere. He's used social media, right? He's, funny when he wants to be, also disgusting when he wants to be. But it's just ultimately the sad thing here is that whether you love or hate Akademiks, he's embraced by hip hop at this point, right? The biggest artists when they're doing their album rollouts are sitting down with him. We just saw A$AP Rocky do an interview with him, right? Kendrick Lamar on his diss record against Drake was referencing Akademiks. Akademiks is at all the, mumble rapper guys' concerts, right? The Playboi Cartis and Young Boys and Rod Wave and this and that. Funny enough, the artist he glazes the most, Drake, has barely ever had a public interaction with him, but that's a story for another video. But I just say all this to say he's a huge figure in the media, and it's sad that one of the biggest players in hip-hop media spreads so many fake narratives about the biggest rappers in hip-hop. It's a dangerous game, and funny enough, the media figure Star had actually temporarily replaced Joe Budden on Everyday Struggle like almost 10 years ago, but it was very short. It was for like 2 or 3 episodes, and he had predicted a lot of what we would see Akademiks, or how we would see Akademiks behave in the future, by basically saying that Akademiks is compromised. He's now friends with all these different rappers, and that's going to cloud his judgment when it comes to, giving his opinion, covering the news, feeding narratives to the audience. There's a major bias in place because he's friends with these guys now. They're not just public figures that he covers as a journalist.
So, are you a Drake fan or stan?
I'm a Drake fan, but an objective one, and I
Really?
can see you
I don't
jumping
think
in
you are, but
already.
continue.
But
Come on,
let me speak. Okay.
So why do you think
Okay.
he's not objective right off the bat?
Why do you think or why are you questioning?
Well,
if
you're
Drake-
now hanging in the studio with Tekashi, yes? You're hanging with rappers in the studio. Yeah.
I'm recording a tape.
No, you're hanging in the studio with rappers. So clearly your perspectives are clouded. You're being influenced now by a friendship. And he took a shot at you in the studio, yes?
Me being, my come up was solely not around anything industry. Exactly. Now I'm in this position. I'm with.
I trolled your come up. I salute your come up.
Okay.
I have respect
However,
for you.
So you're telling
but
me
you're now in the studio hanging with rappers, yes?
I'm recording tracks, yes.
You're in the studio hanging with rappers, yes?
Nigga, I've been in the studio. What's wrong?
He's being evasive.
No, wait.
Are we saying that's affecting his judgment already in terms of debating?
Clearly.
On Drake?
Well, let's focus on
Me and
Tekashi
Drake-
for a second.
Okay.
So you're in the studio.
Is Tekashi a topic today?
Tekashi even took a shot at you and called you a little pump dick rider. Did he not?
Spicy.
It's trolling. Do you know what trolling is?
I'm the father of trolling. Let's not play
Okay,
games.
that's what I'm saying.
We're talking about you hanging in the fucking studio.
Nigga, I've been in the studio.
So he's
What
been
up?
in the studio. He has a mumble rap tape coming established.
I got a nigga
right?
in denial
And
on
we're
the
gonna
first
get-
goddamn
No,
day.
I'm telling you what it is. So I've been in the studio.
ain't telling
What does
me
that
shit,
mean?
but
Make
it's
the
okay,
next
come on.
point. You're stagnating. Make the next point. I've been in the studio. Yes.
It clouds your judgment. I've never in my life hung out in the studio with a rapper. So if we're going to talk about being objective, not allowing yourself to be committed or biased, as I just said, it clouds your judgment. But you're not a rapper anyway, yes?
Hold on. But clouding your judgment would mean, and even bias would mean that I'm clearly only for that particular person. I've probably critiqued, and most of the people who, and this is like the misconception, the people who I like the most, I usually critique the most.
That's a cute way of saying dick riding in the studio.
I think this tweet from Dog Ninja here kind of perfectly summarizes this entire situation, right? This is the problem with having someone like Akademiks and many others at the helm of hip-hop conversations. 21 Savage got caught red-handed botting streams. There's empirical evidence that 25 million streams were deleted from the total stream count of his last project. It would have been ironic if he actually used 21 million bots instead of 25, but I digress. Yet, Akademiks gets on the mic and deflects, claiming Kendrick has had billions of streams deleted, which is a completely false and fabricated lie. Every time you ask these people for proof, they point to a parody account that posted Luther lost 235 million streams, which isn't true. Or they reference differences in monthly streams from around the Super Bowl and the months afterwards. Kendrick hasn't lost a single stream in the total stream count for any song in his catalog, so why sit there and lie, pushing a false narrative when the artists you support got caught red-handed?
I study charts for a living.
It's all a big deflection tactic, right? Let's prop this fake narrative up that Kendrick Lamar lost streams, and that's going to help us in 2 ways. Number one, Drake is obviously suing Kendrick Lamar for botting music, even though he had no real proof in the lawsuit. That's why it got dismissed. So by propping up these narratives, it makes Drake's lawsuit look less scummy, I guess, to a casual person. But then also at the same time, you have, Kendrick's songs that are dominating the charts at this point, and everyone's screaming out this is the dot era, conveniently right after he wins this battle against Drake. Now, they want the narrative to be that Drake is the most successful artist in hip-hop, right? So what better way to kind of dismiss the success that Kendrick Lamar is having than by saying it's all been fake and fabricated and propped up by the industry? That's why the body narrative against Kendrick has helped. And the third reason is that when they get caught red-handed, 21 Savage, Drake, whatever, the most convenient excuse for them to fall back on is the idea that, Kendrick set this standard in the industry that it's okay to use fake streams and that he's the king of it. So, if you're going to criticize 21 or Drake for using bots, you have to go look at Kendrick Lamar. Now, the irony in all of this is that recently Adin Ross, Drake, and Akademiks' little minion, Grand Wizard Chat Guy, were actually tied up in this lawsuit along with the gambling company Stake, which accuses them of a number of things. Number one, promoting an allegedly illegal gambling platform, because the lawsuit claims that Stake, the online casino, it's marketed as a social casino because gambling is illegal in the US, but it effectively operates like real money gambling, and Drake and Adin Ross allegedly, by promoting it to their audiences, have contributed to consumer harm. Now, the second allegation is that they've used Stake's internal system to transfer money secretly. And this is where things get interesting and ironic with the situation that's happening right now with Drake and 21 Savage getting caught for using bots. See,
I study
bots
for a living.
The plaintiffs in this lawsuit allege that Drake and Adin Ross used Stake's tipping feature to send and receive large sums of money, including public transfers, which is argued in the lawsuit as a way to actually hide payments outside normal financial oversight. Now, why is this significant? Why would they be using this tipping feature on Stake, which is basically like, think about tipping your waiter, like you're sending someone a tip on the gambling platform. You're sending them money as a gift. And Drake and Adin Ross were using that feature to send each other money, allegedly, according to this lawsuit. Why that's interesting is because in the lawsuit, they're also accused of funding artificial streaming campaigns, aka botting. Huh? The lawsuit says the money routed in those Stake tips was allegedly used to pay for automated bots and streaming farms that boosted Drake's music plays on Spotify. This would artificially inflate his stream counts and popularity, according to the lawsuit. And the lawsuit names Australian national George Nguyen, alleged operator of the accounts Grand Wizard Chat Guy and Akademiks TV, allegedly. They name him as someone who allegedly coordinated the botting and the amplification of streams and received money routed from Drake and Adin Ross to facilitate the scheme. Months ago, there was a private investigator outside of Akademiks' little minion, Grand Wizard Chat Guy's house, or his old house in Australia. They ended up getting on the phone with the Grand Wizard, a private investigator, and Akademiks played the whole phone call on his stream, where essentially they were questioning the guy's connection to Akademiks and to Drake, and said that they know for a fact that Drake uses bots.
So Drake bots his music. That's what you're trying to say. Allegedly.
I'm 100% sure he does.
You're 100% sure.
Yo, Rock Nation, what y'all got going on, man? Rock Nation, Meg the Stallion. How Drake telling y'all other niggas bot? Y'all trying to get at Drake because y'all think he bot? Come on, man.
Then a couple months later, you get this lawsuit where they're basically saying that Drake and Adin Ross were promoting Stake and using Stake to send each other money via crypto, allegedly, and that money would then get sent to George Nguyen, who aka is allegedly Akademiks TV, and he was using that to fund bots on Drake's music and on social media platforms. Now, why I say this is all ironic, why I even brought this up in the first place, is because the main player that was pushing the whole, narrative that Kendrick Lamar lost 235 million streams on the song Luther because those streams were bots, essentially, and Spotify had to remove them. The main one pushing that narrative was the Akademiks TV page. Those 235 million
Big Macs are for me.
The Akademiks TV page is roped into a lawsuit which accuses them of actually receiving money to plant bots on social media and on Drake's music. According to the allegations made in this lawsuit, it would seem logical that the Akademiks TV page is actually paying for fake engagement and bots on their own social media platforms. And the irony in all of that is they're using those social media platforms to push a fake narrative that Kendrick is using bots, while at the same time they're tied in a lawsuit that alleges they're actually paid by Drake to push bots on his music and on Adin Ross's social media platforms, and likely their own as well, allegedly, if these allegations are true. Now, if you guys want further proof, man, I mean, it's clear as freaking day, all right? The day that Akademiks TV had reported that 235 million streams had been missing from Kendrick's Luther, meaning that Spotify removed them because they were fake, you could look at the website itself, right? This is a data tracking official website. It's showing you guys that the numbers only went up on a day-by-day basis. The green line represents the daily streams, so that's why you see it go up and down, because one day it might have 2 million streams that day, one day it might have only 1.5 million streams. But the gray line is showing you how the actual total stream count for the song grows. And as you can see, it's going up in a linear fashion. There's no up and down, side by side, to the right, and cha-cha, tootsie slide. None of that BS, all right? It's only going up because the numbers never went down because there was no bots on that song, unfortunately for the OV hoes, right? Just some BS that needed to be debunked. And it's shameful that a media personality, if you want to call him that, as big, no pun intended, both physically and reputation-wise, as Akademiks, is pushing fake narratives like this. Really sad. But not surprising. And not surprising it gets worse. See, because Akademiks couldn't resort to the fact that Kendrick Lamar was actually the one botting, instead it was his buddy, 21 Savage, he said that, you know what, at this point, everyone bots in the industry. And he said that, you know what, Drake should just start botting as well.
Huh? Like a pair of, like, I think low-key Drake is stupid to not bot. Drake's biggest competitor is Kendrick, and Kendrick is botting at world record. Like, Kendrick might be in the Guinness Book of World Records of botting. He's botting to keep up with you. If I'm Drake, I would have bought to extend the lead. Fuck it. Like, you know, like, I don't even think it's scummy, and I don't think, like, Drake is, like, the most upstanding, like, person morally. I don't know why Drake thinks he's above botting. I think, listen, this is steroid era. If I'm hitting 50 steroids off the muscle, and that little dweeb over there used to hit 25, he started taking steroids, he's hitting 48. So now we're neck and neck pause. He's cheating, I'm not cheating. Because that's what's happening. Kendrick is botting. Drake ain't botting.
Cap.
Kendrick numbers almost seems equal to Drake. I think Drake should bot. If I'm somebody else, I hear Gunna botting and I'm competing with Gunna, I would bot. It's time. Listen, the industry is not taking this issue seriously. They're not calling them out. They're not issuing punitive things. They should ban people from playlists. Oh, we caught you cheating. We can't playlist your music. You're cheating. Playlisting should be a reward for good music and good practice and good faith.
Oh man, you guys, as I'm recording this video, there's more BS from Akademiks, Snackadiddler, alright? So 21 Savage actually called Akademiks, and I mean, guys, like, the bias is freaking insane, honestly. Like, this is like another level of bias, just because, I mean, firstly, we heard the other week that Akademiks openly admitted that QC, Lil Baby's label, paid him $30,000 to not comment anything negative about Lil Baby's last album, Wham, in the first week of its release. So we know that Akademiks is not just compromised by the artists themselves, but also by the label.
I study charts for a living.
Now, with this thing in particular with 21 Savage, he's friends with Savage, right? So now he's going as far as to say that he doesn't actually believe 21 Savage botted his freaking streams, even though it's there in plain daylight. The numbers are presented on the platform. All you have to do is look. Why would Spotify remove 25 million streams if they weren't actually fake streams, right? It makes no freaking sense at all. And then you have Akademiks taking it a step further to say that 21 Savage called him, and this is why he doesn't actually believe Savage botted, because Savage had told him, hey, why would I bot only 25 million streams if I was really going to use fake streams? Why wouldn't I just put 100 million fake streams on my music? Do you think we're stupid? Does he think the audience is stupid? What type of excuse is that? It's like, imagine getting caught for cheating on a test in school and you tell the teacher, I wasn't cheating. If I was cheating, I would have copied that person's entire paper. But you're only accusing me of copying one answer. Do you see the logic or the parallel there, right? Like 21 Savage got caught for 25 million fake streams. The label has to do it in a strategic way where it doesn't look suspicious. When you're implementing fake streams, you don't put 100 million fake streams into your songs all at once. You put like 1 million one day and then 1 million the next day and then 500,000 the next day, just so the activity on the charts seems regular. Your goal is to not have the audience or the owners of Spotify recognize that the streaming behavior is irregular, right? Is not normal. Putting 100 million streams all at once onto your music would not look normal.
I study charts for a living.
So 21 Savage, by you saying I couldn't have been botting because I wouldn't have done 25 million streams, I would have done instead like 100 million or 1 billion streams. Like if I was really okay with using fake streams, I would have done billions of streams onto my album so that the numbers were huge. It doesn't work like that. Like the fake streaming numbers need to be put onto the music slowly so that no one can, tell that the streaming activity is not normal. Anyways, so Akademiks just tries to basically defend the fact that 21 did not use bots by using this phone call with him as an excuse, which is the dumbest crap I've ever seen in my life. But if you guys want to hear the biggest ridiculously delusional cope you've ever heard in your life, then check out what Akademiks had to say about this entire situation a day later when he had more time to, think of some lies and not be on the spot when it came to these pressing questions about 21 Savage and Drake using bots.
There was 25 million lifetime streams removed from the album. What does it mean? The K-bots were quick to say, they got your mans. People said, hey, call a spade a spade. You've been saying bot like us, the K-bots, we caught your man botting. Now, as I said, I think everybody should be botting. But I'm not going to defend botting because I do think it's unethical. But if everybody's cheating, you got to cheat too. Huh? With that being in mind, is this botting? Is this a correction because of fake and inflated streams? So when this comes up, people run to me to say, is 21 Savage botting? I don't know. I don't think so. But I don't know. Here's why I say I don't know. Is it weird? Kind of is weird. But I'm the person that always remember this about me. You tell me the rules and I apply it to everybody. Savage did reach out to me. I didn't get a chance to get on the phone with him today. But he did message me. He was like, and really I think it's in regards to this. He says, yo, this shit is cap. He said, bro, why the fuck would I bot 25 million? LOL. He says, I would just bot 100 million if I was going to do that shit. Also, here's the thing, too. This is why I brought up, regular streaming in terms of, Kaisanat or whatever. Not accusing him of doing anything, but, as a streamer, say me right now, if a viewer wanted to bot me, you could just go pay for you could pay for 1,000 viewers and it'll jump to my view count. So, the question here is, not all the time if someone's botting, at least in regular streaming, does that necessarily come from the artist, even though you would think it would come from maybe their label. Could anybody bot for somebody? If I love Drake, right, and say I got, I don't know, $300,000 to waste, and I want Drake to beat somebody, could I just bot his music? Or does his label have to do it? How does botting work? We're still kind of iffy on that. I study charts for a living. How does botting work? We're still kind of iffy on that.
Now, someone who I don't even think would know what a streaming bot is and probably has never used them on his career. And when you think about it, he's probably the only Young Money artist who hasn't. That would be Lil Tunechi, Lil Weezy F. Now, my favorite rapper. You were lucky if you were growing up, in the late 2000s. And this man does not get enough credit, all right? Because not only did he probably inspire your favorite rapper in a certain capacity, but there was no denying he had the entire industry terrified for a good chunk of time. It's so sad to me and scary that we're approaching the 20th anniversary of Wayne's prime. Really, it started 20 years ago, right? 2006. Guys, 2006 is 20 years ago. That is freaking absurd. But that's when Wayne was, running the game, and the whole thing is sad, right? Because obviously he was, really kind of gunning for his artists to be bigger than him, really opening the door to, let Drake, Nicki, Tyga flourish while stepping aside, playing the more, executive role. And it's sad because, they ended up really kind of surpassing him from a numbers perspective, at least Drake and Nicki. But when you look back on things, Wayne never really got his proper compensation on that, right? He ended up suing Cash Money, Young Money's parent company, for $51 million. And I think they settled for like $10 million. Think about how much money Drake and Nicki Minaj's music has made the industry, right? For Wayne to get a measly $10 million from that. And then I think he sold his and, you know, all his Young Money ownership masters back to Universal Music Group for like $100 million, which is a great amount of money. But like, guys, we're talking about Wayne's catalog and a good chunk of Drake and Nicki's biggest moments in their careers, right? Because the biggest albums they put out came from those Young Money days. Take Care, Pink Friday, all that stuff. So for Wayne to, you know, kind of sacrifice his time in the spotlight to let his artists shine, and then when it all comes back around, he never ends up actually getting properly compensated for them. But now he doesn't have this, you know, big moment in the spotlight. And then when he tries to get his proper, you know, compensation, all the money that he's owed for really just putting his career on the side to focus on Drake and Nicki, he ends up having to take like 4 or 5 years off of the game, out of the game, right? Like, this was the whole Free Weezy movement when the Carter 5 wouldn't release because he was suing the label to try and get his money back. And this was at a time, sorry for the voice crack, by the way, but this was at a time during the streaming era when it was rising, right? So the whole kind of industry shifted. The way we consume music shifted. And Wayne was really absent in terms of releasing music frequently during this era. And at the same time, every artist in the game is now starting to sound like Wayne, from Young Thug, Lil Uzi, all these SoundCloud artists, Kodak Black, etc., right? Then you have the fact that streaming wiped out like all of these different free mixtape websites. Like DatPiff doesn't exist anymore because an Apple Music exists, right? But the problem is that the biggest highlights of Wayne's career either existed on, you know, features when he was ripping, you know, a verse on someone else's song, or mainly on these mixtapes where he would freestyle over your favorite rapper's beat and make it his own because his version was just so much better. So it's like all of these moments lived on DatPiff, but with the streaming era emerging, it was all lost in history because the websites, no one used them anymore. And in the blink of an eye, every artist now that's emerging is a Lil Wayne clone. So the novelty of his sound and his kind of voice is diminishing. And then couple that with the fact that in this streaming era, it's really like a quantity over quality type of thing. You always have to be visible, right? It's the internet era. Everyone has ADHD and all that. So it's like, but Wayne could not put out music for like 5 years of that time period. So he's losing the attention from everyone. Meanwhile, everyone sounds like him. So his sound is not nearly as unique as it once was. And he's taking this big break all to kind of, you know, fight for the money that he's owed for giving Drake and Nicki the opportunity to flourish. And when he did that, he also kind of stepped aside and sacrificed his own career. Like all these things combined really showed that Wayne ended up with the short end of the stick.
I study
short stick
for a living.
And I bring all this up to say Wayne's legacy and how he's remembered is not where it should be. Even if he gave us 10 more Carter 6s, 10 more crappy albums, the work he put in those late 2000 years, I don't know, to me at least, maybe it's nostalgia, but like it was an incredible time period and like he really was the best rapper alive for a good like 4 or 5 years. And he brought so much to the genre, from like the sound to the look to the different, you know, artists that he ushered in, even catchphrases like bling bling, even songs like A Milli where you have that repetitive sample and it's just like straight 3 minutes of freestyling. Like I feel like that sound really got popularized after the A Millis and the 6 foot 7 foots. The flooding of all those mixtapes, like the whole SoundCloud era, the way they kind of flooded mixtapes, even though their mixtapes were on streaming platforms and Wayne's were on DatPiffs, it was all off a blueprint that Wayne really like was integral in building, along with like Kanye West, Gucci Mane, and then later Future. I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but I just want to bring this up to say Wayne is highly underappreciated, and I think he knows that because he tweeted out after the Grammy Awards basically very upset that he was forgotten about for the ceremony. So what did he say? He said, "Congrats to the nominees and winners. Wasn't included. As usual. I gotta work harder. As usual. One time for my slime, Bill Belly." Now, the irony in this is that, like, every single time Kendrick Lamar has a big moment lately, you see Lil Wayne tweet some weird stuff like this, right? Like the whole Super Bowl thing happened, right? Kendrick was announced for that. Wayne went on a month-long tirade, you know, crying about the fact that he wasn't the one selected for the Super Bowl performance since it was in his hometown.
That hurt a lot. You know what I'm talking about? It hurt a whole lot. I blame myself for not being mentally prepared for a letdown, for just automatically mentally putting myself in that position like somebody told me that was my position.
Aside from that, after Kendrick Lamar released GNX, Wayne got on Twitter the next day and said, like, you know, why are they dissing me? Don't wake the beast up. Like, I'm not messing with anybody, but you don't want to mess with me because I'll destroy you. Something, destroy if disturbed. I think that was the verbiage he used. And then now here you have him after Kendrick Lamar swept the Grammy Awards. Wayne is again complaining that, you know, he wasn't invited, he wasn't picked, he wasn't included, he has to work harder. The same way he said, you know, at the Super Bowl, I guess I got to work harder to earn that spot. Now, that's why I want to give Wayne his flowers at the beginning of this, to say that I do think Wayne is highly underappreciated from, you know, the stuff he's brought into the game and just his legacy overall, everything he's accomplished. Like, people forget that, right? Wayne gets left out of the conversation. We look at Kanye and Drake as the massive superstars, or Kendrick Lamar as the guy who, you know, has brought the most innovative, groundbreaking projects to the game in the last few decades. Like, where is Wayne in these conversations?
Oh, Lil Wayne's just too good. Oh, Lil Wayne's just too good.
Well, I brought up the factors that were uncontrollable, right? The fact that, you know, he was suing the label, so he had to take a lot of time off, and he took time off at a time where things were shifting and everyone started sounding like him, but the dynamics of how to release music changed. So the biggest part of his catalog, his mixtapes, kind of got flushed under the water because no one was on DatPiff anymore. Like, there was a lot of, like, parts of his legacy that were out of his control that left him kind of forgotten about as the music industry was shifting in the streaming era. But there were factors in Wayne's career that were very controllable that, in my opinion, he completely fumbled on his own, and that's a large reason why he's not at the Grammy Awards, why he probably will never be considered for a Super Bowl halftime show. There's a reason why Lil Wayne became the laughingstock of the internet for the week that he released a album from a series that is regarded as one of the best album series in hip-hop, right? Like, break down how crazy that is. Wayne released a Carter album, and the most publicity he got for it was being absolutely clowned for how horrible it was. Like, that would crush the freaking 10-year-old me listening to the Carter 3.
What up, dope? All my cutthroat, cut it.
Oh my God, bro. This is not real. I'm being so serious, bro. This is not real. What the fuck is this beat, dog? What is this beat, dog? I'm not gonna lie. We're trolling. You're dead trolling, bro. You're not serious at all. You don't give a fuck. Do you hear this?
But it's things like that are completely in Wayne's control. And the only person he has to blame for not being invited to things and maybe being forgotten about or not taken seriously is himself. Like, he only has himself to blame for certain aspects. Let me explain what I'm talking about, right? So remember how I said, in my opinion at least, following Wayne's career, he really kind of let Drake and Nicki prosper and kind of put his career on the back burner because of that. When he came out of jail in 2011, he was talking a lot about retiring at the age of 35. And I believe when he came out of jail, he was around like 29 or something. So there was like he gave himself a 5-year window to even be active in the game at that point. He thought he was basically 1 foot out the door. And you kind of saw that sentiment with the quality of the Carter 4. Like, compared to the Carter 3, the Carter 2, the subject matter was not as, you could say, inspired, you could say as in-depth, you could say he wasn't touching on serious subject matter. Like, he felt like he was kind of just this rich dude who found the formula. He was just kind of on autopilot almost. There was a lot of cool stuff in revisiting Carter 4. I still really like it, but there's no denying that compared to the Carter 3, it was a blatant, like, lack of effort or less inspired, or subject matter just wasn't as hard-hitting, whatever the case is. I think that was Wayne kind of taking a step back and being like, all right, let me just kind of not put out half-baked stuff, but like, I can really go all the way 100 with it. Like, I could give you guys 100 millies, 100 6-foot, 7-foots, and control the game for the next 10 years. But if I just put out some average stuff, like something that's good but not groundbreaking, like, my popularity will slowly start to dwindle. And at the same time, you know, like he said, we're going to be all right if we put Drake on every hook. Like, it'll give Drake and Nicki more time in the spotlight. Meanwhile, I'll be taking a back seat.
Nicki and Drake kept the lights on when Wayne went to Rikers Island.
It's kind of like what Jay did when, you know, Kanye started running the game. Except Wayne kind of took it to another level, because a year after that, or 2 years after that, he gives us I'm Not a Human Being 2. And I mean, again, you could go back to that album today and find some gems on there, but like, overall as a project, especially when you compared it to what we were getting from Wayne like 4 years before that in like 2009, I'm Not a Human Being 2 was like really like, whoa. Like that was a shock in the industry when he released that. Like that was the lowest effort we've ever heard from Wayne. There was a song on there where he's talking about my tongue is a Uzi, my D is a AK. It wasn't great. And the numbers kind of reflected that. And because of that, you know, that was the year that you had that whole big battle between Kendrick's Good Kid, Mad City, Drake, Nothing Was the Same, Kanye's Yeezus, and then the Macklemore album, right? Remember the Macklemore album won and everyone was up in smokes? That was 2013. That was the same year that Wayne released I'm Not a Human Being 2. You never hear anyone put that I'm Not a Human Being album in the same category as the Yeezuses and the Macklemore album and all that stuff. Like that was never in the conversation because it was such a weak album at the time for Wayne. And he wasn't nominated for any awards. And the same type of tweet that he gave us in 2026, he gave us back then in 2013 when he said, noticed I wasn't nominated nor involved in the MTV VMAs or the BET Awards. I apologize to my fans and I promise to work harder if it kills me. So same exact message 13 years prior to this 2026 Grammy Awards scenario, right? Wayne does not put out his best work and then doesn't get rewarded for it, and then goes on Twitter to say, I apologize, and I'm going to work harder because I wasn't included in the award shows. So like I told you guys, a lot of this stuff is in Wayne's control, right? And when he sees that, you know, he puts out like not his best album and then it doesn't get awarded, he promises to work harder. And he really did, because after this 2013 debacle, he gave us the Carter 5, which was a big step up from I'm Not a Human Being 2. But I'm kind of going on a ramble here. Let me just kind of summarize all this to say, Wayne sometimes seems a little delusional, right? And that could be because he doesn't really keep up with what's going on social media. So he just sees the Grammys happening. Maybe he remembers, oh, didn't I put out the Carter 6 this year? But meanwhile, he probably doesn't even know which songs his team selected to actually make it onto the Carter 6. So in his head, he's like, wait, I'm Lil Wayne and I put out the Carter 6 and the Carter album, that's my series, right? That's the big series. And I wasn't nominated at the Grammys. I wasn't even invited. What's going on here? Like, you know, Wayne is out of touch. I'll give you guys an example because at the Grammys, they were making fun of the fact that Nicki Minaj was not there and everyone in the whole ceremony was cheering. Nicki Minaj has always defended Wayne. You know that, like, they're very close, right? Young Money, all that. So it's like, do you think if Wayne knew what was going on and he knew that the entire Grammy ceremony was cheering and celebrating that Nicki wasn't there, that he would then go on to Twitter and complain about how he wasn't invited to the Grammy Awards? Like, all of this just seems very out of touch, right? Like, it seems like Wayne is kind of missing something here. Like, either he doesn't realize that people really didn't like the Carter 6 or doesn't realize how bad it truly was or has too many yes men on his team, or just doesn't even realize what page the Grammy's on and where his artists are at right now with it. Like, Drake would refuse to even go to the award show. I don't know. The whole thing is kind of a mess to me, and Wayne is caught in the middle of it complaining, but doesn't even know what the hell is going on. And there's so many layers to this problem. Like, Wayne complaining that his music is not good enough. He needs to work harder. He's going to make it undeniable next time so that they have to invite him to the award shows or put him on the Super Bowl stage. But then you get the Carter 6. So it's like, were you really even working that much harder to prove to the world that you deserve these things? Like, again, it's a delusional thing, right? Because you're saying you're going to work so much harder to prove to the world that you deserve the Super Bowl slot, but then you give us the Carter 6. I don't know who's more delusional, guys, Lil Wayne or Akademiks, right?
Those three are for me.
And if you guys want a solution to this Wayne problem, like if I could offer Wayne any advice, get Birdman back on your team. Get Birdman back in the studio listening to the music you put out before you actually release it. Because when Birdman was around, like, everyone wants to attribute Mac Main being the guy and Cortez Bryant being the guy who selected Wayne's, you know, best track list. But they forget that Mac Main and Cortez Bryant were the ones responsible for I'm Not a Human Being 1 and 2. I believe they were handling Carter 4 and 5 as well. These were not bad projects, but I mean, compared to Carter 3, Carter 2, they didn't hold a candle. And I mean, it was when Wayne was the sole artist, the sole superstar under Cash Money, and Birdman put all his focus towards Wayne, that Wayne was really putting out the best material possible. You could say that maybe Wayne was, you know, more inspired creatively, right? He was coming up with way better and catchier hooks back then, and his verses might have been stronger, but one thing you can't deny about Wayne is that he still can rap. He needs like a strong A&R in the studio with him, and whoever Birdman had at Cash Money as the A&Rs back then, they definitely knew what they were doing, because Wayne was only putting out quality, and he was an albums artist for a short period of time. Carter 1 until Carter 3 were very strong. And then after Carter 3, he became larger than life. And there was an interview where he said with Rebirth, that rock album he did, that his label was going to let him do whatever he wanted. Like, he told his label to F off, basically. And that's when it just started to become a mess. And Wayne got larger than life, thought that he could do whatever he wanted. He had too many yes men around him. He released a bunch of junk, a bunch of slop. Like, some of it was very good, and he could still rap amazingly. But let's be real. Look at the Carter 3, then look at I'm Not a Human Being 2, or Funeral, or frickin' Carter 6, right? Like, there's a noticeable difference in quality. But the one thing that has not changed is Wayne's ability to rap. He can still rap his behind off. So I would suggest get some better A&Rs in the studio with you. Get some heavy quality control in place. Don't be afraid to take criticism. Have these A&Rs carefully select different producers who would mesh really well with your kind of alien-like style, right? Get Tyler, the Creator, in the studio with you. Alchemist. Get Michael Made It in the studio with you. They've come up with some gems together in the late 2010s. You need some people to collab with. There's a million of your sons rolling around right now in the industry, and they're the biggest players in the game, right? Get Future in the studio with you. I'd say get Kendrick in the studio with you, but I think that ship has sailed. But get Drake in the studio with you. When he raps with the Griselda guys, he goes crazy, Lil Wayne. Like, go listen to his Griselda collabs. Crazy. Go listen to his song with AZ that came out in 2021. Wayne's verse on that, it's called Rituals. Crazy. You cannot dismiss Wayne's pen when you listen to a track like that.
Young money, let the moolah burn, drip like Lubriderm. I was bumping AZ in the firm when you was a worm.
So guys, I just bring all this stuff up to say, like, Wayne is a phenomenal rapper to this day, and Wayne's legacy often gets overlooked, partly for things that are out of his control, but also partly for things that are very much all directly caused by him. Get an A&R and get your head out of your butt, all right? Maybe get on social media. Like, I wouldn't tell a lot of people to get on social media, but I think Wayne can actually use a little reality check from seeing, discussion and just current events that are happening on the internet in real time. Like, maybe that can kind of bring him down to earth. I know he's an alien, I know he's a Martian, but like, at one point, like, your skill set is too good to be wasted on the type of music you're making right now. And you know it as well, because you're sad that you weren't invited to be awarded for all of your hard work, right? So get onto Twitter, see the discourse, and then get back in the booth. Now, someone who I would definitely tell to stay off of Twitter is Nicki Minaj, Lil Wayne's Young Money artist, right? She has been going crazy over the last, I would say at this point, like 2 years. But like I mentioned before, at the Grammys, they were up in arms celebrating at the fact that Nicki Minaj was not there. There were jokes made on live television about the fact that Nicki was not at the Grammys.
Nicki Minaj is not here. She is not here. She is still at the White House with Donald Trump discussing very important issues. Actually, Nicki, I have the biggest ass. I have it. Everybody's saying it, Nicki. I know they say it's you, but it's me. Wop, wop, wop. Look at it. Look at it, baby.
So after this, of course, Nicki Minaj went into a frenzy, right? And I mean, she was crapping on Trevor Noah, but I'll be honest, guys, I'm not going through every single one of these insane tweets, okay? We're going to go through a few of them, the ones that I have captured. The rest of them you guys could find on your own time, on your own dime, all right? So for whatever reason, they started being directed at Jay-Z over a joke that Trevor Noah made, even though I don't think Jay-Z was at the Grammy Awards, but anyways, she said, are y'all understanding that these people have been sacrificing children as a way of gaining and maintaining power? If you ever vote Democrat again, you're just as soulless as they are and will perish. Maybe it's time for me to do some story times since I was trying to not say what I wanted to say. And you get these pictures of Jay-Z and they say, Jay-Z's 26, Aaliyah's 15. Now, this, I'm like 99% sure this is a flat out lie. Like, this is not when Aaliyah was 15 years old in this image. Yeah, here, look. The year was 2000, Aaliyah was 21, all right? So, like, this whole video is just about different people spreading misinformation, from Akademiks to Nicki to, Wayne about his own career. But Nicki doubled down, saying, your favorite artist has been practicing rituals in a satanic cult where they take babies from other countries, and I can't read this stuff for YouTube, guys, all right? This is insane. Like, this is really insane what she's writing. If it's true, it is freaking insane. The whole thing with the Epstein files and stuff, like, do I think that they were doing some crazy demonic stuff on that island or whatever the case is? Yeah, 100% they were. But was Jay-Z involved? Was Pusha T involved because some anonymous tip called the FBI? Listen, no one could say no 100%, but 99%, guys, there's never been an actual case filed against Jay-Z, Pusha T, or Eminem, who were all mentioned in the frickin' Epstein files, right? don't you think there'd be a case against them or some sort of further allegation against them rather than just some random anonymous tip one time talking about dates that don't even make sense, right? Like Jay-Z in 1994 being linked to Harvey Weinstein and Epstein, or Pusha T in 2007. Insane allegations, but of course Nicki's taking it a step further by talking about, the Grammys dissed her, so now the entire Democratic Party is, unaliving babies and demonic, satanic, ritualistic practices are happening on babies from the evil Jay-Z and Beyonce and all the Democrats. This is a Looney Tune talking right now, all right? This is what Looney Tune sounds like. Are there bad politicians out there? Yeah, of course there are. Are there bad people out there who do horrendous things to children? Of course they are. Does that mean Jay-Z and the entire, audience of the Grammy Awards and every single freaking person in the Democratic Party, they're all munching on, on children? I don't even know if I could say that on YouTube. That's what you think, Nicki? That's what Nicki Minaj thinks? So now this is where it gets even dumber, all right? So remember Akademiks? We brought him up at the beginning of this video spreading all that propaganda. Yeah, so he reacts to the Barbs going crazy on Trevor Noah. That's the guy who made the joke at the Grammys about Nicki not being there. And Akademiks says, we used to all think that Kanye West was crazy, but then, things came into light that he was saying, they aligned with what he was saying. And the same thing is happening with Nicki. She's referring to the fact that Nicki was criticizing Jay-Z for, unaliving children for satanic rituals. And then, the Epstein stuff comes about. And basically Jay-Z, what Nicki was saying about Jay-Z all these years, now that's true. That's the correlation Akademiks trying to make. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. But the irony is that, these were random 1 or 2 anonymous tips from Jay-Z and Pusha T, right? But the ironic thing is that Nicki Minaj is completely aligning herself with Trump right now. Same thing with Akademiks, but he had way more public ties to Epstein than Jay-Z ever had, so it's just insane.
The Barbs are really good. I can't even lie to you, chat. The Barbs are so good that after Trevor Noah dissed Nicki Minaj actually tweeted out and was basically saying this guy was gay. I don't know, man. Nicki Minaj might be on a historical run, right? Generational run, Nicki. Huh? It's interesting. It's come to pass that, sometimes perspective and also time really matters a lot. I think we all went from saying Kanye was batshit crazy to some things are happening and everyone's tweeting out now. They're like, yo, Kanye was right. Should I even tweet out today? Yo, Kanye was a good judge of character. Like we're all giving Kanye praise now, but before we're like, shut up, you crazy. Go get some help, take her meds. And I ain't gonna lie, there was a time that Nicki Minaj was, everybody would say she's unhinged. Yo, what's wrong with Nicki? Nicki's off that coke. And now, some of what Nicki's saying, some of it's coming to light or it's aligning with what we're seeing. And we're like, oh my God, Nicki was right the whole time. People are so fickle, bro. People are so ficky.
And the irony is that it's not just Akademiks and Nicki who have ties to Trump, but also 50 Cent, who has ties to Trump, and all of them are only piling on Jay-Z, but ignoring the big fact, the big elephant in the room, that, this orange elephant in the room, that Trump knew Epstein and hung out with him. I'm not saying he did anything, just that the fact that they have been photographed together. We know that they have been in the same room actually meeting with each other on several occasions, at the very least. But meanwhile, they all dogpiled Jay-Z for one anonymous tip that could very well be false. There has been no actual lawsuits ever filed against him, but meanwhile, Trump, they're dead silent. Now, Akademiks, upon the news of Jay-Z being, in that Epstein file anonymous tip thing, he's calling out everyone in the media to respond, right? Everyone who has ties to Rock Nation, from Joe Budden to Wayno to whoever the case is, they all got to step up and say something, because you can't be compromised. You can't, let your biases get over you. Even though earlier in this video, what did we see? We saw Akademiks be completely compromised when it came to his husband, Drake, being caught tied to a song that was using bots, right? We saw Akademiks completely deflect on that. But now, no, this anonymous random tip about Jay-Z that was in these files, the whole world has got to, make sure that we report on the fact that this could be 100% validating towards all the insane things that Nicki Minaj has been saying Jay-Z is a part of, right? That's what this means.
I need all of y'all to keep the same energy and talk about this. Joe Budden, I can't wait to watch your next podcast. I need to. Wednesday can't come quick enough. If I watch the next Joe Budden podcast and y'all don't put this picture up and be like, yo, this looked like a preteen boy with a grown man and this shit was wrong, I know y'all biased. Wayno, I need you to talk about this one. Wayno, need you to talk about this one. Whack 100. Everybody. The company, man. Oh, yeah. Elliot Wilson. There's no more Drake news coming for you, brother. This is what you need to talk about. This don't look right, gang.
So this is where it gets hilarious to me, guys, all right? If you guys didn't know Wayno from, you probably know him from Everyday Struggle, but he has been doing his own thing now on YouTube. I mean, his show is literally called I'll Do It Myself. He's got to be one of my favorite creators on YouTube right now. Like, always solid takes, always level-headed, always grounded in logic. And he's called out because he was heavily associated with Jay-Z and Roc Nation early on. I think he was an intern at Roc Nation, like in the glory days of Roc Nation, right? So, and of course he was Akademiks' co-host on Everyday Struggle. So Akademiks specifically called him out by name to say, Wayno, you gotta say something about your man who is in these Epstein files, right? So Wayno completely flips it on Akademiks' head to say, buddy, look, yeah, I've been around Jay-Z a lot. I've worked with Jay-Z, so I've seen him in, private environments and all that stuff. So I can speak on, the type of character that I saw. But at the same time, I've seen you, right, on Everyday Struggle. We work together every day. And when the whole world was calling you a PDF last year because you were talking to a 15 in a Discord chat saying some highly inappropriate stuff, I defended you to say, yeah, Akademiks was messing around. It was in bad taste. It was gross, but he's not a PDF. The same way an anonymous tip is not going to make me say this man that I know, I believe him to be a PDF or, some sort of abuser. So grab your popcorn and watch as Wayno blissfully cooks Akademiks.
Let's get to it. Everybody do think pieces on supposedly a non-existent event if I got slapped or not. But I need all of y'all to keep the same energy and talk about this. This picture look crazy. Look like a preteen boy with a grown-ass man. Wayno, I need you to talk about this one. Wayno! Now let's talk about it. You want to know why I've never been bothered about seeing that picture? Who hasn't seen these pictures of Jay-Z and Aaliyah? Don't worry, I'll wait. You know who hasn't? Niggas that ain't into hip-hop culture. I used to sit on this side, I used to sit on that side. So I'm gonna keep looking towards this side like I'm talking to him. You like the OG to them niggas, but yet you finding yourself rubbing shoulders with niggas that's in their early 20s. Act your age and your wage. When people talk all this stuff about Jay-Z, I'm not one of them fake niggas that don't know him. The reason why I don't believe none of this silly shit is because I was around when he was highly successful. Let's talk for a second. Remember the shit what happened with Act, where he was talking to the 15-year-old kid? Yo, you always wanted me to be next to you. Now I could be in Bro, what? I don't get it. What are you saying all that? Now, remember when that clip played and everybody in the whole world was totally against you and everybody was saying how disgusting and nasty and a groomer and a pedophile, all of this other stuff? You know why I never jumped into that whole thing about you being a pedophile? Because I don't know you to be one. What I thought you was just a dumbass being stupid online. I would never call you a pedophile. You wanna know why? I ain't got no evidence of that, and I never seen you do that for the 3.5, almost 4 years of me working with you. Before anybody knew who I was a nigga from the street. You cannot run with something if a nigga put something on the name if you don't have evidence. You see how that changes when you work with a person like Jay-Z? I'm not jacking nobody saying that niggas is in a cult, killing and drinking baby blood and doing all types of crazy shit because I never witnessed that.
Now, this tweet I thought was very interesting, right? A big claim that Nicki made, like early on when she started going on these rampages against Roc Nation, was that when she signed to be part owner of Tidal, which, by the way, I believe was like maybe 0.5% ownership stake in the company, she thought she was signing up for a much bigger stake than she actually got. And, there was that whole ceremony when all the artists went and they signed this piece of paper to, declare that they were part owners of the company. Then when Jay-Z sold it, Nicki says she was only offered $1 million, even though she was supposed to have a 3% stake in the company, which would mean, she would get $9 million. But then there's reports that she never even actually was labeled as a public owner of the company. The whole thing was a freaking mess. But this tweet, I think, kind of debunks a lot of the BS that has been circulating from Nicki's way over the last few months. So check it out. Nicki came online claiming that the paper she signed at the Tidal meeting right in front of everyone was her actual contract after one of Jay-Z's friends exposed her for never signing a contract. The problem is that the entire Tidal meeting was well documented. Alicia Keys is on record announcing that they were only signing declarations before Nicki even put pen to paper. So she was clearly aware of what she was signing, and it wasn't a damn contract. So she lied yet again. That's why Nicki also never sued Jay-Z after alleging that he owes her $200 million. If she truly had a case, she would have taken it to court instead of going on repeated rants that won't put said amount in her pockets. Jay-Z didn't sue Jaguar Wright. Jay-Z didn't sue Kanye. And nothing Nicki has said so far actually costs him any money. You all keep asking why he hasn't sued Nicki. It's simple. Let her defamation cause real financial damage first, and then we'll see how that ends for her. Now, I think that's beautifully summarized because at this point, right, some people are trying to use that against Jay-Z to be like, if everything Nicki is claiming about him isn't true, then why doesn't he just go and sue her, right? Surely if Nicki Minaj is lying on Jay-Z's name about all these things, he's going to sue her for defamation. The thing is, we've seen what has happened when real, financial harm comes Jay-Z's way, like when that lawyer last year, Tony Busby, I believe, had, that case that he took on related to the, minor who was claiming she was SA'd by Jay-Z and Diddy at a party in like 2001. Jay-Z was very quick to not only just hop online, but also take legal action against that lawyer to make sure that that lawsuit did not grow legs to defend himself against these claims. Right now, at this point, Jaguar Wright, Nicki Minaj, even if you believe them, right, what they're saying is so freaking absurd that it hasn't actually caused Jay-Z any real harm in the public light, because most people at least, just look at them like, okay, these guys are tweaking, right? Same thing with Kanye when he was calling Jay's kids the R word. So I'll leave it with this, you guys, all right? When it comes to a point that you have to spend more of your day trying to take down another individual or spread narratives and lies about another individual, it's probably because you're either missing something in your life or the truth itself will destroy you. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you in the next one.
I study
Rapaholics
for a living.